I want to talk a bit about Al-Jolani. First of all, was he truly like a leader of Al-Qaeda and ISIS?
Yeah, he was. He was
100%.
actually he was the head of the the Syrian branch of ISIS, and then ISIS, and then of Al Qaeda. So he was actually a leader, the Syrian leader for both of those outfits.
Yeah, I guess it was HTS, and that's the Al-Qaeda name for in Syria.
Right. Right. And he was designated a terrorist. There was, what was it, a $10 million bounty that was put on his head and was only recently removed. You say, oh, now we have him in power. Let's.
You can on Twitter, you can still see it circling around. Still on the, I don't know if it's Homeland Security or whatever. They still have his bounty up there on the.
It's quite extraordinary. But it's for those of us who are paying close attention. It's just not surprising. We knew what the Assad government was fighting there.
So people are saying, okay, well, it's just so strange that Al-Qaeda, these were the people that did 9/11, or so we're told. And now he's the head of Syria. And then just let me play you this clip. I'm sure you've probably seen it, but I think it's just unbelievable to me. And I just want to understand how we explain this.
So this next one is about you personally. How are you holding up under all this pressure? Are you getting time to do some thinking? Are you getting enough sleep at night? Again, I've been there, and it is so very, very hard. And your many fans, and I am one of them, we do have worries.
Am I living in an upside down world? What is going on? So this is the former Al-Qaeda, the people that attacked 9/11. Here's General Petraeus saying, are you okay? You getting enough sleep? We're huge fans of you. We're huge fans?
Yeah. Well,
what
now
about
it's out open. It used to be you had to hide that. Of course, there was that famous email, I think it was in 2012, from Jake Sullivan to Hillary Clinton. We're on Al-Qaeda's side in Syria. That's what it says. You can still, the email's out there. You can go read it. We have been allied with Al-Qaeda. It's this off and on relationship. You could say in a way it was, going back to the Mujahideen in Afghanistan. That's really where the beginnings of Al-Qaeda really come from. Well, you can say the roots of that, the first jihadists that we allied ourselves with. And then in Yemen, we're the Saudi Air Force, which was being supplied and supported by us, actually was on the side of Al-Qaeda in the civil war in Yemen. So we were allied with them again there. And then in Syria, going back in 2012 and then all the way up through today. But now it's just out in the open. It just seems like there's just no sense of shame or there's just no historical memory. That's what it is. It's just like, it's just, similar to, again, what's happened in Ukraine. You did get reports, that come out every month or so, all through the, really up to 2022, about that Nazi problem in Ukraine. There was even legislation in the U.S. Congress, to ban, support for like the Azov battalion, that kind of thing. There was a general recognition. It was out in the open. These articles appeared in the news, and then 2022 came along and, these are our heroes. These are our guys. The guy who was assassinated recently, I forget his name, but he was assassinated by that person dressed up as a courier. He was right there at the very beginning. Like this guy was a committed Banderite, from before the fall of the Soviet Union. And when the Soviet Union fell, he immediately established a party, which was called the Social National Party, eventually became Svoboda, which, now exists. And he was condemned at different times by the European Union and his party. But when he died, he was celebrated as a hero by all of them. So you see something similar. There's just absolutely no attempt at consistency, and there's just this, no historical memory. And they know, these government officials know that nobody's going to point out the inconsistencies because we have a completely subservient media, that just goes along with this nonsense. It's quite, extraordinary.
But just if you were an American that, went to war after 9/11 because we were told that Al-Qaeda brought down our towers, and that these were the evil. I mean, this is Al-Jolani. He's a head chopper, right?
No, I think he's personally executed people, right?
Right. So this guy is supposedly a monster, and now he's here in New York and saying that, and our general saying he's a huge fan.
Right.
Well, what does that say to our troops, the people that died supposedly fighting terrorism? Who are the who are these people? Like, by
right
the way,
in
I don't
New
know
York
if you,
too.
Right. It's just so it blows my mind. I don't know if you.
Yeah, I know. It's hard to believe. Like if you told me, certainly 20 years ago, but even like 5 years ago or something, that this would happen and that you would be there talking with General Petraeus on the stage, say, "Oh no, come on, it's not going to go that far."
He says he's a huge fan, and did you get enough sleep?
Right, a huge fan of his. But, well, for those of us who paid attention and we knew about this email from Jake Sullivan and these other, historical facts, we knew that there was this alliance, that we have been actually working with Al-Qaeda and Israel too. They actually provided like medical care to those Al-Nusra, which was just Al-Qaeda in Syria. They did support them in southern Syria. So, we knew it was there, but it's just the fact that they can be so open about it, and then nobody's calling you. Sometimes you think, well, okay, Democrats, New York Times, whatever, you hate Trump. Why don't you attack him on this front? But they don't, because they're all the same when it comes to these questions. They're all in,
Man, the rot, it's so deep. It's so crazy. I can't believe it. I know I sent you that video last night. I don't know if you saw it in the first episode.
I was just too tired. I wasn't able to.
That's fine.
At some point. Yeah.
But it's, oh man, I know you're reading this book on 9/11. We'll talk about more of this later, but I recommend everybody to watch that, the series. I've only watched the first episode, but it's clear that the CIA is the one that brought in these terrorists, these Al-Qaeda terrorists, that these hijackers that flew the planes in there. We issued them visas, and we were onto it. And then the FBI was questioning. The whole thing is just so insane. It's so crazy. So, I mean, and then you see people on X and Twitter that they say, yeah, well, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, these are Israeli Mossad agent operatives, creations of the CIA and Mossad. And maybe that's going too far, but maybe not. I mean, is that fair to say? Like,
I think that's going too far. Clearly we have worked with them. I think there's no doubt about it, especially Al-Qaeda.
But we
actually did destroy ISIS, but
or Iran destroyed ISIS more than we did. I would say.
But we contributed to their destruction. Though at the end, it actually, when we decided that ISIS could be useful to us, we did tolerate them within Syria because they were a thorn in the side of the Assad government. So that's true. I mean, but I don't go for that we actually created them. But yeah, clearly there's just no question about it that we have worked with them. And then there's General Petraeus. I'm a great fan, right?
Right. I mean, these like
the former head of the CIA, right there.
Right. We want to attack Iran. We say these are like religious extremists, but we support the true fanatical religious extremists, that the Sunni extremists, Wahhabists and the Takfaris. Like this is what we work with. Like it's crazy. And then you see, and then you wonder what happens when all of a sudden Al-Qaeda and ISIS, they're taking over Syria. What happened? That was us. And then and you start putting these dots together, and you're thinking like, okay, well, if you watch the Tucker Carlson thing, you realize that the CIA, we're the ones that got these Al-Qaeda members into America. What is going on? And they said, just kind of one a little haywire. We lost track of them. Like it just doesn't make sense. And then there was the Crocus City Hall attack in Russia immediately after that terrorist attack in Moscow. Before anything happened, the United States said, it was ISIS-K. ISIS-K. What is ISIS-K? And how do we know? And what are we doing with these guys? Like everything is just, I don't know. It just feels like I don't have any proof.
Right. Yeah. Again, it's hard to know. It's hard to know what's true these days, especially when you get into that shadowy world of,
but just zoom out and take a look.
But there are some things we do know, and there's just no question. I mean, well, there it was out in the open, Petraeus with, Mr. Al-Qaeda. So yeah, this
How
is
is
not a
there not
conspiracy
more?
theory. There he is. He's on the stage telling us all.
I just don't understand how any American soldier that is stationed around the Middle East and they see this and they're like, wait, why are we here? Who are we fighting? What are we doing? I just don't, they have to be questioning it. It boggles my mind, but I don't have any evidence of this. I don't have any proof, but I just feel, it just feels like CIA is a Mossad cutout. It's Mossad in the United States. Maybe not 100%, but there's a lot. It feels like there's a lot of overlap. And they have all these black budgets. They can do whatever they want. If anybody questions them, they just happen to die or disappear. It's just like, JFK was wanting to say, well, I wanted to take the CIA and bash it up into a billion pieces and scatter to the winds, right? Something like that. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, he died. Too bad. It's just like, I don't know. And I just don't believe that they are working for us in any way. They are working for Israel's interest or their own crazy interest they're just completely rogue. The CIA just does what it wants to do, and they have no accountability. And everybody's afraid of them. Everybody's afraid of /CIA Mossad. Because they know that they'll do whatever they.
Yeah, it was like what was it? Chuck Schumer was saying this was during the first Trump term.
7 ways to sundown to get back at you.
To Sunday or something to get back at you. He was surprised that actually, Trump was even fighting the CIA. Just like, you don't mess with these guys. That's what he said openly. You can go back. I'm sure the clip is still out there. Again,
so how do you fight that? What do we do? We're just
it's a real trouble. There was a real effort to actually to restrain the CIA, to kind of put it back in its box after the Vietnam War. There was the Church Committee, and things were really done, and there actually, some, previous, CIA wrongdoing and, all these black ops and so on were exposed. Laws were passed, and for a while, the CIA, was, you could say, was cautious and and it had been cut down to size, but that didn't last very long. And it's certainly after 9/11, it's just like all the restraints were just completely removed, and now we have a huge. It's not just the CIA. There's just this massive security complex, which is of course very much integrated with the military-industrial complex, and it's huge, And we don't know what they're doing half the time, I think, including the president. It's probably especially true of President Trump, who just seems to get his news or his information from Fox News. That's the rumor. And based on the things he says, it seems to be true. But I think it's probably true of other presidents too. It's just like this monster they created is just so huge and powerful that it's not really controllable. So it's a serious problem, How do you, put the genie back into the bottle? How do you close this Pandora's box that we've opened?
The only way out that I can see is total economic collapse in the United States. And, obviously that's horrible and it's going to be tough on people, but maybe we can at least avoid World War III, because I just feel the route we're going down is just so destructive. It already has been. So many people have died. We're talking about over 1 million people that have died in Ukraine. Okay, they're soldiers, I understand, but there's so many people with families, and it's like so
not
many
to minimize
people.
That at all.
Right. I just so many Ukrainians have died, and then just the absolute horror coming out of Gaza. It's just, and then the way we're going, I just see this magnifying times 10, times 100. And it's just, we have to stop that. We have to stop this killing, this bloodshed. But I don't see any way to do it. These off-ramps don't seem to be viable, or it seems like our government is completely compromised. We don't have any, Trump doesn't have the backbone to do anything. So my only hope is
also, I think, unfortunately, to a great extent.
He's a Zionist.
Yeah, he is. And just, you can talk about Epstein now, and it maybe is a factor. I admit that, but he did an awful lot for the Zionists during his first term. When the Epstein was not a factor, could not
He probably
have been
knew. I mean, it's always in the back of your mind, right? I mean,
again, you just look at the people around him, and I think recently he did say, which I think was a perfectly true statement, that he's been a Zionist all his life.
Yeah, well,
just like Joe Biden was. There's very little difference between them when it comes to that.
Right. So it just shows that our political system, and I almost feel like in a way, the Israelis, they've worked so hard and so long through AIPAC and all of their influencers and all of their connections and their billionaires and putting all their people in all these positions of halls of power. I feel like they almost feel like they own America, that it's their right to do this, that it's like, hey, we've spent so much time, and then they're justifying it in their mind, like, there's all these great things we did too as well, and now we created America. America is what it is because of us, and so we have the right to do it. I almost feel like that's their mentality, but I feel like the only way out of it, if they do have all these levers of power, they have all these people all through our government that can just do everything for the interest of Israel instead of the United States, then the only way that maybe we can get out of this is if we have a complete economic collapse. So then all of a sudden, like, oh, sorry, the factory, everything's shut down. You're not getting any more equipment. You want $1 billion that can maybe buy you 3 apples now, thanks to the hyperinflation. So it doesn't matter anyways. So it's just done. Everybody's got to, it's like, we have to reset, break apart, build a new system, because the way we're talking about it, just the size of the surveillance state, since 9/11 really, I think, changed America forever in such a horrible way. There's no way to unravel it. It's too large. It's just there's just the number of people that are employed by the security state is insane. And so you just have, and then there's just that everybody's just connected to it, So the only way to get rid of it, I think, is just complete financial collapse, and so China, if you're listening to this, dump all of our debt, tank the dollar, just do it. I know it's tough, but I just don't want us to go boom. And I just feel like that's the way we're going. We're going to, we think it's bad now. And it's horrible right now, what's happening. It's going to get a lot worse the way things are going.
Yeah. Well, it could be. I was just thinking that there's a real downside to success. You could say that in a way the U.S. is a victim of its own success. You go back to the 60s, that at that point, we're really on a pinnacle of prosperity and power. The downside to that is that it creates this motivation. It incentivizes all the countries of the world, who are outside of the Soviet bloc, that were not part of that alliance, to get whatever, to gain as much control as possible, or influence, I guess I should say, within Washington. They're all motivated. He says, like, here, this is, like where the decisions are being made, the decisions that determine the course of the world and have huge repercussions for our own country. So there is this incentive to really invest in ways to influence decision-making within the U.S. And of course, the one country that had the most success at that was Israel. But they were greatly incentivized. It's just like, if we can get the U.S. completely on our side, then we have it made. Our Zionist project can go forward. Greater Israel will come true. And but if we lose that, if the gleam goes off of the U.S., if we become poor and weak, then Israel, if it's still standing, is going to be looking for somebody else to influence, and all the other countries of the world too.
Right, but they won't be able to.
Yeah, probably not. No, everybody will see what they did and says, like, no way, we're not letting you in here. You would hope so.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. Let's see if we can walk back from the edge. But we have the worst collection of statesmen in the Western
Oh yeah, well,
world.
they're not statesmen, that. Yeah, just right of
just clowns.
Yeah, clowns. Good, right.
Okay, Dad. Let's end it there. Okay. Have a good rest of your day, and I'll
Okay,
talk
you
to you
too.
soon. Okay.
Very
Unless
good.
there's
Bye.
anything else you want to add, is there anything?
No,
Yes.
no, I think we said enough today.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Okay. Bye-bye, Dad.
Bye-bye.